Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game. 3 intriguing questions about the Warriors offseason that remain unanswered. As we enter the final stretch of the offseason, most of the major questions surrounding the Golden State Warriors have been addressed, particularly concerning their roster and contract situations. The offseason's biggest storyline revolved around Klay Thompson's future, ultimately leading to his departure to the Dallas Mavericks. The Warriors opted not to guarantee Chris Paul's contract for the upcoming season, instead leveraging their newfound financial flexibility to sign DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, and Buddy Hield. Yet, several key uncertainties about the Golden State Warriors' current and former players still linger as the offseason progresses. The Warriors currently have 14 players on their main roster and 3 on two-way contracts, leaving little room for additional moves, though trades remain possible until the February 6 deadline next year. While most attention is now shifting toward what Golden State will deliver on the court in October, let's revisit some pressing questions that remain unresolved as we move through this offseason. 1. Why is Lester Quinones still a free agent? Given his potential, it's surprising that Lester Quinones remains unsigned. At just 23, one would have expected Quinones to secure an NBA contract, even if not with the Warriors. Despite some murmurs of interest from the Philadelphia 76ers, Quinones is still a free agent. Quinones showed promise last season, starting on a two-way contract before earning a spot on the main roster in February. The Warriors' decision not to extend a qualifying offer to the 6 feet 4 inches guard hinted that his time in Golden State might be over. However, it's puzzling that no other team has snapped him up, especially since he's still eligible for a two-way deal. 2. What are the Warriors' plans for Quinton Post? Golden State selected Quinton Post with the 52nd overall pick, showcased the 7-footer in a press conference, and even had him play in the last 2 games of the Las Vegas Summer League after recovering from a minor injury. Yet, despite all this, the Warriors haven't officially signed Post to either the main roster or a two-way contract. Why the delay? While they can't offer him a standard contract without hitting the luxury tax apron, it would make sense to sign the 24-year-old to a two-way deal, possibly replacing young guard Reece Beekman. This could still happen before the season starts, but the delay is intriguing. It might signal that a trade or other transaction is on the horizon, potentially creating an opportunity for Golden State to bring Post onto the main roster. 3. What are fair contract extensions for Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody? Arguably the most critical task remaining for the Warriors this offseason is negotiating contract extensions for 2021 lottery picks Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. However, given the duo's inconsistent playing time over their first 3 seasons, determining what constitutes a fair deal for each is challenging. Reports suggest Kuminga is seeking a 5-year, $224 million maximum contract, but it's highly unlikely Golden State will offer that amount at this stage. ESPN's Kendra Andrews projects that Moody's value could fall in the $11 to $13 million per season range, though the 6 feet 6 inches wing might choose to bet on himself for a more lucrative deal after a strong 4th season. Whether the Warriors can reach agreements with one or both of their young players before the offseason ends will be fascinating to watch. Otherwise, they'll become restricted free agents in 2025. Ranking 3 recent Warriors trade proposals, from least disastrous to most catastrophic. The Golden State Warriors may have missed out on acquiring Paul George and Lauri Markkanen this offseason, but their pursuit of another all-star caliber player should remain a top priority in the coming months. Stephen Curry recently reaffirmed his status as one of the world's best players during the Olympics, sinking 17 three-pointers and scoring 60 points across the final 2 games to secure another gold medal for Team USA. While recent trade proposals offer potential to bring significant talent to the Warriors, none of them appear particularly enticing for the franchise. With Markkanen off the market following his renegotiation and extension with the Utah Jazz, and Curry once again showcasing his brilliance in Paris, the focus has shifted to who else might be available for the Warriors as they seek more support for their 2-time MVP. In a recent article, Stephen No of Sporting News proposed 3 different trades aimed at bolstering the Warriors' offensive talent. However, just because a player looks good on paper doesn't mean they're the right fit for the Warriors. There's a reason they were so interested in George and Markkanen, yet show little enthusiasm for players like Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine. None of these three proposed trades are particularly great for Golden State. In fact, you could argue they range from bad to potentially disastrous. Let's rank them, starting with the least problematic from the Warriors' perspective. 1. Warriors pair Stephen Curry with former MVP. If adding James Harden is the best of the three proposed trades, that's not a glowing endorsement for the other two. While the former MVP isn't currently eligible for a trade after just re-signing with the LA Clippers, this isn't the first time his name has been floated as a potential target for Golden State. If the goal is purely to add more offensive firepower, particularly another shot creator, Harden makes some sense, even in his current, somewhat diminished form. His production dipped last season, but he showed flashes of brilliance in the playoffs, averaging 21.2 points and 8.0 assists while shooting 38.3% from three-point range in 6 games. Trading Wiggins and Payton for Harden would be a significant defensive downgrade, but that might be the price to pay to ensure Curry doesn't have to carry the offensive load alone. The Warriors would also be moving the 3 remaining years of Wiggins' contract for 2 years of Harden, the second of which is a player option. Giving up a first-round pick isn't ideal, but at least it's for the upcoming season and not further down the line. Golden State might consider whether a Curry-Harden duo could be dynamic enough offensively to make them a playoff team. Is that alone worth it, even if they don't look like true contenders? 2. Warriors find their stretch big and new starting center. Nikola Vučević, an all-star level talent, seems like a logical fit for a Warriors roster currently lacking frontcourt spacing. Unfortunately, the 33-year-old is no longer the player he once was, though he did still average 18 points per game for the Chicago Bulls last season. The question with Vučević is whether his offensive skill set outweighs his defensive liabilities, especially when he's set to earn $41.5 million over the next 2 seasons. As time goes on, he appears less valuable as a starting center on a team with deep playoff aspirations. The defensive concerns will always be there, and while they might be mitigated somewhat alongside Draymond Green, it's not worth it if Vučević continues to shoot below 32% from beyond the arc, as he has in 2 of the last 3 years, including just 29.4% last season. Wiggins may not hold much league-wide value right now, but there's no way the Warriors would trade the 2022 All-Star for Vučević in any deal. Period. Carter and Craig would bring some defensive elements, but they're marginal role players rather than key rotation pieces like Wiggins and Jackson Davis. How about an alternative proposal, Kevin Looney, Gary Payton II, and Moses Moody for Vučević and Craig? Even then, it's not an exciting trade that's likely to make a real difference for the Warriors, with the franchise needing to aim higher than someone like Vučević, who is, at best, a 3rd or 4th scoring option. 3. Warriors trade for All-Star wing. Brandon Ingram might be the best player involved in these 3 trade proposals, but he also carries the most potential for disaster. Some players just don't seem to fit the Golden State mold, and the 26-year-old definitely falls into that category. We saw this play out when Ingram was part of the 2023 USA basketball team under Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. The 2020 All-Star had a rough tournament, averaging less than 6 points per game and even voicing his frustrations in an interview with Joe Vardon of The Athletic. It's nothing against Ingram personally, it's just the reality of contrasting styles, which even led to perennial All-NBA talent Jason Tatum being benched for large portions of the Olympics under Kerr. That's not to say Ingram wouldn't be effective or useful, but he's not worth the cost from both a trade and contract perspective. Wiggins, Payton, Moody, and 2 first-round picks is a significant package to give up, and with that investment comes the expectation that Golden State would need to ensure Ingram stays long-term, likely with a new contract exceeding $200 million. The upside is that Ingram works out better than expected, but even then, how far does a Curry-Ingram combo really take you? 2nd round of the playoffs, maybe? The downside is that you give up significant assets for a 1-year rental or end up paying max money to an injury-prone forward who doesn't particularly fit your system. Both scenarios are potentially disastrous. Thankfully, it seems the Warriors understand this, with The Athletic reporting last week that the franchise has no interest in an Ingram trade.